So what exactly is the infinite return hack when it comes to real estate? How can you make infinite returns in real estate? And by the way, Warren Buffett made a few like $100 billion by getting a return of around like 20 to 25% every year on average, I think it was, okay? So imagine how much more money you could make by making an infinite amount of money as far as a return wise, okay? So in this video, we're going to break down exactly what this is, how it works, the pros and cons, and if I actually recommend it, okay? And spoiler alert, I don't recommend it whatsoever because I'm the most boring guy on YouTube, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why I'm saying this. By the way, guys, if you guys don't know me, my name is Tommy Bryson. I talk about real estate, I talk about stocks, and that's what I do here on YouTube. Now, as a whole, like this video on top of also subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified. I post videos from Monday to Friday. Now, the very first thing, guys, you have to understand is risk equals reward, okay? This rule is permanent, it's set in stone, it's usually how it works, and every now and then it's broken, okay? Basically saying if you take on more risks, you expect to get a higher return. If you take on less risks, you can expect to make less return, okay? That is the entire idea. Now, when is this rule usually broken? Well, whenever you find yourself in a situation where you see a big opportunity. For example, someone is telling you, I know this is actually worth $100,000, but I'm basically moving, starting a new life, so I'm willing to sell it to you for $70,000. That's a place where you take on less risk in a way, and you even have a higher return because you found an opportunity. These are usually far and few in between, but when you find them and take advantage of them, you're able to break this rule of risk equals reward. Now, why am I telling you this, okay? Well, because if you are going to make an infinite return, you're also going to have infinite amounts of risk. That is super important to understand. Nothing is free here. There are no free lunches. You gotta understand this. So how do you calculate this exactly? And how do you actually use this equation as a whole? Now you have to first understand return on investment. This usually basically means, okay, how much money are you going to make in profit divided by how much money did you put into this asset as a whole? So this basically means, okay, let's say I'm looking to buy a property and this property goes for like around $100,000. By the way, I like to use my calculator on my phone because I like to be able to see what I'm doing. I like to teach this way, okay? So here's the equation, okay? I'm trying to buy a home. The home costs around $100,000. I'm gonna put down of my own money about 20% or so. So multiply this by 20%. Well, I got to put down $20,000. Now, let's say, for example, I'm able to make from this property, from cash flow, about $310 every single year. I mean, every single month, I should say, because that would be terrible per year. But $310 per month, and you want to find out how much you're making per year. So multiply it by 12. Remember, to get ROI, it's how much money you're making, right? Divided by how much money you have in the investment. So in this case, I'm going to be making $3,720 as a rough number. Divided by the money I put in, well, divided by $20,000, remember that number? I'm going to get, for example, 0.186. Just multiply the number by 100 to get the percentage, not in decimals, then you get 18.6%. That is going to be my ROI on this investment. That's going to be my return, all right? That basically means, hey, I'm making 18.6% on this deal. It's a good return. It's not bad at all, honestly, but it's obviously not infinite, right? Because infinite would be infinite, and this is obviously quantifiable. It's 18.6% return. So how do you get an infinite return on this same exact deal? Interesting, right? So here's the idea, all right? So let's say you actually buy a property and the property is going for like around 100K, but the property is actually worth about like 150K if you put in like $20,000 like in a rehab or whatever, right? So basically saying, hey, I'm buying a property, let's say for 100K, I'm basically gonna put down 30%, right? $30,000 plus $20,000 for rehab. I'm in the property for like $50,000, right? And then I rehab the property, I take care of it. The value goes from, for example, value goes from being 100,000 all the way to 150,000. Now I do a cash out refinance, and let's say they let me cash out the full amount. Now I get all my money back, right? So now I have no money in this deal anymore. So basically saying, hey, I bought this property for 100K, right? I put down like 50K of my own money. It's worth $150,000. I cashed out with a cash out refinance. I have no money in this deal, but let's say, for example, this property is still able to cash flow you about $130 per month, right? Remember that? So you want to multiply this per 12 to actually get the annual. So times 12, I'm making around $1,500 a year. Now, how much money do I have in the deal? The answer is zero. So divide it by 0. And the answer is error. And that's how you get an infinite return. Because an infinite return basically means when you have no money in a deal, the amount of return you actually make is infinite. The risk you take is also infinite. Because in return, you get all the risks. You get all the mortgage. It's all yours. If you have a vacancy, have a closure, have bankruptcy, all the risk is on you. Your returns are infinite. And what are the pros here? The pros are you can buy a property, take your money out. All the cash is pure profit because you don't have any money in the deal whatsoever. You grab that money, use it for the next property, and before you know, you can buy in 1 year 5 properties. In 2 years, maybe 10 properties. You have all these properties with no money in them, but you're building a house of cards. If you have, for example, a collapse in the real estate market, if you have vacancies, you might be underwater fairly quickly. And that is why I don't really use this whatsoever and why I don't like it. Now, here's a pro. Someone might say, Tommy, that's fair, right? The risk is high, but I'm not going to be paying it. The tenant is. You know, people always say that. But you have to understand that for 30 years, you have to have a property that's going to be occupied by tenants, right? Without that much, for example, people leaving and coming in, like turnaround, right? You have to be very careful with this, right? So that's the idea. There is a lot of things that could go wrong in a 30-year loan payment. And people that usually use a strategy, they don't just buy one property, they buy 5, 10, 12, 20, all right? They buy a lot of them. And then you have this whole empire where you get cash flow, you take on all the risks, but you don't really own anything, and you won't for the next 30 years or so, right? So that's the idea, and I don't recommend it because my overall goal with real estate is to be able to say, I own these properties. I don't take on that much risk. So in reverse, guys, okay? In reverse, we go back all the way in reverse, okay? So let's say a property costs $150,000 and you own it outright, and you're able to make, let's say, like $1,500 a month in rents, well, multiply by 12, right? That's $18,000. If you divide that by the cost of property to get your ROI, a cash and cash return, well, you're going to be making about like 12%, okay? Is that a crazy return? No, it's a good return. It's a good return on your money. But what is your risk here? You don't really have that much risk, thus your return is not going to be that high because you buy a property, it's paid off in cash, you have a few vacancies here and there, but you don't have to pay a mortgage. There's not that much risk you're actually taking, right? It's your property as a whole. The property burns down, you probably have insurance inside of your expenses, right? So that's the idea behind it. The more risk you take, guess what? The higher reward, but it's like this equation where, hey, infinite returns, also infinite risks. And I'm just not willing to take my risk factor that far whatsoever. Guys, that is basically it for this video. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified. And if someone tells you, I found a way to make infinite amounts of money in real estate or in any investments, they just basically telling you, I found a way to make infinite amounts of risk or take infinite amounts of risk also, okay? That's the idea behind it. I'm not saying every now and then you could find an amazing opportunity where you're buying a property for less than it's worth, and that is awesome. That is great. That's awesome. But they're far and few in between. You have to find these deals, and you know the risks, you can see them exactly as they are. But here, it's just a fancy way of saying you're dividing by 0 because you have no money in the deal and you're basically taking on a bunch of risks. I don't recommend it whatsoever. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified, and comment down below 0 so I know you made it all the way to the end of this video. And so everyone is like, what? Why are people commenting 0? Okay. Up here's in the video. Over here's my face. As always, Long Term Team officially out.